Okay. How about now? Anything? Anybody? Okay. So, did anybody see anything that I've been doing for the past half hour? Okay, well, I guess I'm starting over. We'll move out of chapter 3 and head back all the way to the beginning. Okay. Uh so fair. I mean, I guess that's perfectly fine. So, here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to go back through everything that I went through before. And if it shows up at the beginning of the stream when somebody's watching this after the fact, sorry. It's just how it works. I'm going to hopefully be able to edit everything and put together a much more usable file. So, but this is how it's going to work. Here's the rules of me covering this book. I am going to cover each section chapter by chapter. Then I'm going to take some time at the end of the chapter in order to wait for some questions from anybody who has questions about that chapter. Once that's over, I'll move on to the next chapter. If you have questions about something we've already covered, you'll have to wait till the end in order for me to loop back on it. If you have questions about something in the future, please wait till that chapter. So let's get started. All right. The first thing that you will notice that has changed about the 2021 version of the rulebook that was released originally in 2019 is we have updated the cover. Hopefully, at the end of this month, I'll be sending this off to the printer in order to receive the physical copies of the bound full color book. So, if you're interested, keep paying attention to the Afterworld site. I'll be letting everybody know about when we are going to sell those. Books will be $24.99, $29.99 if you want me to ship them. So I found a way to get them shipped via $5 flat rate envelopes. So I can get that all going here soon. We do have a couple more touches to fix, as it looks like we found something. Right. So we decided to use one of the most iconic pictures ever taken at the Afterworlds game. This has the flags clearly, shown. It has the costuming all there. Travis is a cool dude, so got a great picture up here, and it shows people playing the game and having a good time. It'll definitely help differentiate this book from the other books on your gaming shelf. So, the beginning of the book is largely unchanged. It does here show that Abby and Cam are credited here as the editor and the designer, and they put in a lot of work on this book. So, thanks. Super appreciate it. And I know that everybody is really going to get a lot better use out of this book than the mad scribblings that I created prior. So the book is now credited. We now are not credited. Not credited. The dedicated. The book now has a dedication at the beginning of the book, and it is to the friends that we have lost along the way since this book has been released. So the table of contents has the table of contents is just a table of contents, exactly what you'd think it would be. Which is going to lead us directly into chapter 1. Chapter 1 has changed drastically. Chapter 1 is the introduction to this book and the introduction to Afterworlds, and sometimes the very first thing that anybody who even is learning about Afterworlds is going to read. So now we have some nice fluff in here, some history lore stuff, and some real world history and lore, mentioning here how everything has come along, how we got here. Has a very detailed content disclaimer, letting everybody know exactly the kind of stuff that they can expect when they come to one of our games. And the how to use this book section is very detailed and helps everybody with the way to, how to absorb this book, and points you towards the Z Camp and the guide and the build guide, which will be receiving an update very soon. But this is essentially this is your basic instructions. So, but that does finish up chapter 1. If anybody has any questions about chapter 1, I am willing to answer those now. So we'll wait about a minute. We've got Ember saying, thanks to Abby and Cam. We have Skylar saying Captain Apocalypse wants you, which, yeah, the front picture here is exactly, it beckons you to come play the Afterworlds game. It's very awesome. Let's see. If nobody has any questions, it's perfectly fine. You don't have to have questions about sections. I just want to give everybody a chance. I was wondering for like a half an hour why everybody who was watching was so quiet. I guess it was just YouTube decided not to start it. I had to like just close everything down and start it all again, and it worked. So, I don't know. Good now. All right. Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is the basic rules of everything that doesn't have anything necessarily to do with game mechanics. So, this is your stuff like be 18 and don't throw garbage on the ground, and the basics of outside of the game rules. The first change is to rule number 1. Rule number 1 is no longer just don't be a dick. We have changed it to take the old rule number 2, which is to have fun, and combine the two, as they're both equally important in my mind. If you're at the Afterworlds game, or you're playing along, or you're in the community and you're not there to have fun, being a dick doesn't matter at that point. Why are you there? So I feel that they're both equally as important, and thus have both become rule number 1. So don't be a dick and have fun. A new rule has been added in the place of rule number 2. The have fun rule is now follow the spirit of the rules. When you're trying to figure something out, if you find a way through the rules to create infinite Molotovs through an obscure set of perks and things, because you want to, if you read the rules in one way, that's how it works, so therefore it's for the rules. That's not what the spirit of the rules are. The spirit of the rules are rules created in order for us to play a game where we take the lives of wastelanders and go do stuff in the wastes and have a good time in a post-apocalyptic setting. Not how can I abuse this system to, create infinite money or something like that. It's not the kind of game. So following the spirit of the rules is a really important rule, and that is actually something you'll hear a lot too. If there is the GMs know when they're going through the rules, if they read something and somebody says, well, if you read it like this, spirit of the rules is the thing that you use there. So age limit's the same. The Safety for animals is the same. The conduct has been a little bit more updated. The wording is clearer here. I advise that you read through these rules every time before you come to an event, right? And just to refresh yourself. Respecting the site is the same. Drugs and alcohol is the same. Smoking, cleanup, and the waiver are the same. There is a new rule that has been added. Rule number 11, stay home if you are ill. When we start gaming again, we will be gaming in the post-COVID world. We probably should have, as a society, been like this before, but we are definitely going to be like this going forward. If you feel that you're getting sick, don't come to the game. I know that it's going to suck to miss the game, but it's also going to suck to get all of your friends sick. And we have people who getting sick is dangerous for them. We have people who can't afford to miss that next week of work, right? If you get sick at a game, avoid contacting people and go home. If need be, we'll find a way to get you home. But if you feel sick, you need to go. That's just, it's part of etiquette now. It is a safety thing for everybody. And to make sure everybody knows, this does not count things that are chronic or non-communicable, things like that. If you have miner's lung from working in the salt mines for, the last 30 years, I'm not going to be mad when you cough, type of thing. So it is not meant to target anybody who has something. It's if you get the flu or you have a cold or something like that, just don't bring it to the game. The safety rules section. The hold wording on page 10 has been expanded upon. It has been clarified. The wording there is a lot better. The contact in game section, I believe is format was changed to be a bit more readable. If I'm reading what the change list here says right. Yeah. I got to scroll through my change list. Apologize. It's really long. Because it lists everything that's even like slightly format changes and stuff. Let's see, after the role-playing rules, which are also, there's a couple of tweaks in here, 1 or 2 words that make it a lot more clear. The metagaming section has been added here. This is very important, and everybody should definitely read page 14 for sure. Make sure to, on your next read through of the whole book, take a look and read this one pretty carefully. This is describing what metagaming is, how to deal with it, how sometimes it's appropriate, and how sometimes it's not appropriate. So the wording here was carefully chosen to try and describe this in the best way possible. It is a non-physical object that we are describing, and we need to do it's a lot of work here, so please read through that. When role-playing supersedes game mechanics section is added here, which is definitely something that everybody should read. It's a question that gets asked a lot. I want to do this thing. Can I do it? The question is everyone else around you okay with it and into it? So read this section here real quick. Read this section here carefully and absorb that information, and it'll definitely help going forward. The sleeping area rules and cabin raids. This area has been reworded a little bit. The rules are the same, largely, but things that have been clarified. So make sure to read through that again. And that brings us to the end of Chapter 2. If anybody has any questions about Chapter 2, please put them in the chat and I'll answer them now. I've got take a few minutes here to get to this part. Let's see. Rushlavin says the cryptic writings of Udo. Correct. I definitely, the rules that I wrote before, they were all pretty entertaining, but they definitely make you look at, it kind of feel like you're looking at a mad scientist's scrawlings in his laboratory. Ember says new rule number 2 is definitely a good addition. I also agree. Tan Stammer agrees as well. And Tan Stammer says, clarifying question for rule number 11. Will players be sent home if they're noticeably sick on site? Yes. That is because the GMs are going to be looking for that. If somebody comes up to us and says, hey, this guy just looks real sick, we're going to pay attention to that. I have new safety equipment on the site. Recently a laser thermometer was purchased. I've got more than enough masks and stuff like that to make sure that people who are sick can look into it. I've got a couple of people who are medically trained who have volunteered to work some of these things as trying to, they'll help patch some stuff up, but they can also help me determine whether or not somebody needs to go home, or if they're just, like right now I am sitting in a hot light and sweating, so I could possibly look like I was feverish, but there are, basic things we're going to pay attention to. And, if it ends up that somebody looks sick, we're just going to ask them to go home. Being sick is not the best thing. There are ways to determine it. If somebody, it's essentially going to be, I can't give you a hard and fast rule on what the medical questions are going to be there, because I am not medically trained, but I am working on getting somebody who is. Ember says, question about when role-playing supersedes game mechanics. What are the limits on this? Okay, so let me just read that for everybody here. When role-playing supersedes game mechanics, sometimes players may want to play out a scene that doesn't quite match the game mechanics of the system, like a life-saving surgery or a brutal interrogation. If everyone involved consents to the roleplay and the actions follow our safety rules, these scenarios are allowed. Generally, as long as only consenting players are affected, role-playing is allowed to ignore many mechanical rules. In the case of the brutal interrogation, for example, there's no mechanic for punching someone in the guts. Consenting players can allow the other player to act out pretending to punch them in the stomach and call damage as if they had a weapon, and the players can choose to take the damage. So, more clarifying from Ember here. For example, could life-saving surgery save a character without a health flag available? No. So, as long as it is you could say that the character, if you wanted to role play out a situation, right? Like, it wasn't intense enough. The fight that just happened was really boring and everybody's feeling bad. So, you grab your neck and say, oh, I'm hurt worse than I thought I was, Doc. You don't actually have to have even taken that damage. You can go through a whole thing where there's a big life-saving surgery to try to, fix the neck of this character who really wasn't even in danger before. But you can't create stuff out of nowhere. You can't benefit from it, right? You can't I don't have a health flag to actually repair this person with. You can make it more serious. You can add more detriment to yourself. You can always make it worse for yourself through these things. You could make it so that instead of having to be physically walked from one place with the first aid ability, that they actually get a stretcher and carry you and a bunch of other things. It should never. It's enough that you can never magically create anything, magically benefit from anything, and it should always just be done for fun in RP. Yeah, that's a really good clarifying statement there. You can make it worse, but not better. That is definitely good to mention there. I'm going to note that. Yeah, no Deus Ex Machina. And that is page 15. Okay. Doesn't look like there's any new questions coming through on chapter 2, so we're going to move to chapter 3. So chapter 3, largely, I gotta get my change list again. So chapter 3 is largely the same as it was before. Not a lot of the basics of mechanics have changed here. Healing got a little bit of a wording change just to make it more clear. The mechanics do not change, but the wording did. Same thing with, let's see where to go. Dead men tell no tales. The wording changed. The rule did not. Let's see. Throne combat got a rewording. So that is just something that, you know, to read through it and it'll describe things a little bit better. Under combat etiquette. Find that spot here. Change list is enormous. I apologize for how long that takes. Boop, 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 boo. Ending a counter. Combat etiquette, safety. Okay. The trust, humility, communication, safety section, I believe, got a couple of fixes. A lot of it is just like 1 or 2 words that have been changed. The encounter section has re-engaging. That's all formatting. Never mind. The encounter section didn't change. That's just format in book stuff. Counts, calls, effects. There is under calls, right? So dash, for those of you who haven't checked from 2019, dash is now a call in 2019, or from 2019. And it is different from rush in the way that you can't attack when you are using dash. It is not one that you can attack at the same time, and it also makes you immune to all forms of damage, not just ranged. So the dash is a more defensive ability. Rush makes it, rush has been changed in the way that you must move, must be moving and can move any way but backwards when you are using rush. Also, we have added Pierce. Pierce is an effect that when you get hit with it, if you hear someone yell Pierce, you ignore your armor. Androids have been updated for this. We'll cover that when we get to the species chapter. But those are the big changes from chapter 3 combat. Does anybody have any questions about chapter 3? We'll get more into who gets rush, where Pierce is used here in a second. Rush Slavin says, can you spin around and call rush correct? Yeah, as long as you're not moving backwards. So you can walk forward turning, right? It's just as long as you don't backpedal. Josh Beck says, an effect, not damage. Should Pierce mention burning? No. So Pierce, the way that it works, it's a good point. It may actually need to say burn. Tater asks, how does cyber affect Pierce? I'll get back to you in a second, Josh, about that. How does cyber affect Pierce? So if you have armor, right? You have armor on and you get hit with a Pierce in the arm. It ignores the armor and hits the cyber limb. The cyber limb is then disabled. Cyber limbs allow you to ignore being disabled once per encounter, so therefore it no longer is disabled. So you get hit, it uses up your cyber's defense, and it goes forward. Tan says burn is generally reserved for when you rip a flag yourself. Yeah, which is why I think we didn't use burn here. So it, as an effect, the effect of Pierce, and that's exactly how this should be stated. The effect of Pierce is you lose a health flag, or if you're hit in a limb, that limb is disabled. So you lose the health or you lose the limb is the effect. It is not damage. So in addition, actually, Pierce may need to be reworded. I see exactly where some confusion is caused here. I will note that. Page 32. Pierce. Right. So, and this is the case where, in the case that it doesn't get updated by the next time you see this book, this is where spirit of the rules comes through. The spirit of the Pierce rule is you get hit with Pierce. It goes past your armor and hits you. So, logically, you should take the damage as though you didn't have armor. While, yes, you could do mental gymnastics with the wording here to attempt to avoid damage, right? You could, if you read it in a specific way right now, you could read that if you are hit in a limb, the limb is disabled. If your limb is already disabled and you get pierced in the limb, you could read it right now as though it did nothing as the arm is already disabled. You would take a health flag there. Does it bypass rush and dash? The intention is no. It is not supposed to bypass. Oh, wait, no, yeah, the effects. Yeah, as an effect, yes, it goes right past those two. So, Pierce is very rare in this game. It is an effect. If it's an effect, you get hit by it. Dash and rush do not stop Pierce. So, it's a really good point. That is by design. The Pierce is an effect. It's hard to get off. So, the only ways that you can get Pierce right now are through Deadeye and Trapper. So, or Deadeye and Engineer and Trapper, I think. We'll cover that. I've got it in my change list. But anyway, that is so good points here. Rush Levin says only in Deadeye, Engineer, and some epic perks, correct? I believe Trapper has it. Skylar says so associate it like an AP round. Correct. That it was the intention of the Pierce. It's supposed to be the Deadeye's capability to pinpoint an unarmored location. They're very accurate with what they do. Yeah. I mean, if we had to clarify that all effects, or specifically that Pierce, like the whole deal is that if you read Dash, it says you are immune to damage but not effects. So really Pierce says, yeah, Pierce is an effect. It's under the effect list. So therefore Dash and Rush, do not ignore it. It's not really, that's, you know, that is intentional gameplay mechanics to keep things balanced. That Dash and Rush are once per encounter abilities that you get access to, and your other once per ability access things should be able to do something about it too. So, also it's really hard to get off a lot of the Pierce abilities. So, okay. Any more questions about chapter 3? And we'll move on to chapter 4, which is actually a really quick one, and then we get into some of the more detailed changes. Okay, I don't think there's anything coming here, so I'm going to move my change list down to chapter 4. Rush. Starting stats gear. There we go. This is where one of our very first big wording changes comes in here. Under chapter 4, your character, you're going to see that, you know, we have the checking in and the creating a character. The what your character starts out with has been updated to be reworded a little bit better about how these things work. You know, specifically, it's saying that the prices vary based on the game economy. For a character starting, the what you can equip is outlined here. The armor section has been updated to be a little bit better on the wording. The carrying capacity has got a little bit of wording here, but you will notice, where did it go? Selecting you now select a species. So we are changing the word race. That does not exist as the wording choice that we use anymore. We are moving along with the general flow of a lot of role-playing games. They use species instead of the word race, as the connotations are different. And honestly, it's a good change. There's no reason not to follow along and be on the right side as well. So we are using the word species now. If you have older materials that still specify the word race, that's not what, you know, we're using anymore. And if you find any sort of instance in any of our stuff that has the word race and the word instead of species, please let us know. We'll get it changed as soon as we can. The rest of this chapter is pretty much the same. The basic melee weapons, basic ranged section here is featured for usability, to make it easy for people to figure out what's going on when you get here. And after that, the chapter 4 is very quick. It's not a long chapter. So does anybody have any questions about chapter 4? All right. Don't see any. Oh, okay. Tan Stammer, what do you got? Yes, the bonus point. It is 1 point total, right? So, and we're pretty forgiving on the wastelandy look thing here. So if you come with all points covered with armor, but you've only had the time to really decorate your chest to be wastelandy, we're gonna give you the point, right? You've put effort into it, and you know you should probably continue to go. It'll make it better for you. It'll make it better for everybody, but the you get 1 point for attempting to look more wastelandy. Also, just so you know, there's about a 15-second delay between us. Yeah, it's just how YouTube works. Okay. And then Ember says maybe at leveling up, specify that it's your level times 10 unless your species specifically says otherwise. Instead of putting that into this book, we will just put a better wording into the species that are added that change that. So, or a perk that changes that. As if you go through this book, there is no instances of that happening. That's only in the expansion. Wait for just a second here and then get started on the species chapter. Okay, we're going to move into species. So species has got, I mean, human has no changes. Android does feature some non-mechanical changes. Almost everything that is changed under the species for androids is wording. There is a lot of wording changes that are done under each thing, just to make things a little bit easier to read, to understand how things are working. The AI systems, the fuel source options, the everything down here has not really changed, especially mechanically. If there is any changes you notice, they are specifically because we had a word spelled wrong or we used a better word now. The big change here is that instead of being called Android perks, androids now have downloads. And the reason we chose this, one, it's better flavor. You can, and when and it won't even, it'll help sound a little bit better if you're trying to communicate something in game. That helps with trying to get something across to somebody, where you say, I can use that rocket as I have the arm cannon download, right? So it helps with that, and you don't have to say the word perk in game to describe something to somebody. Let's look here. Did that get changed? Let me check. It's a really big section here. Special rules. The original document says stupid Apple update. And yeah, so no, the androids are not immune to murderer cannibal. That is specifically something going here and here. We're like I said, I'll answer the questions at the end, so I'm just gonna keep moving and then we'll go back. So no big deal. After androids, we have mutants. Mutants have mutations instead of mutation perks. There is largely no changes to the mutations that occurred here, other than some formatting and wording. Mechanically, the rules stay the same. Rad Titans here, I don't believe that they got any mechanical changes either. Sorry, this change list is insane. Megavore, there we go. Yeah, there's a lot of little wording changes that do not change any of the mechanical values of mutant or rad titan or unturned. I do believe that there was an update in Kovir. So I think that's one of the only ones that got a mechanical change. So let me go find that here. Actually, you'll forgive me for a second. I need to grab a specific thing here. Drive. Change. I have a big change list thing here to explain where one of the changes was, because the formatting in this other change doc is not working. Change 3. Nope, that's not the one. I had this part outlined, but it didn't keep the outline here. Okay, under Xenomorph Kovir. Should be right here. The Xenomorphs use metamorphoses now. The Kovir use traditions now, and the Zunaks use disciplines. For everybody's information, under the Kovir, right now it currently mentions that they were a slave race of the Zunak. I am seeking to finish up the lore for that this week and have that changed. They will still have the same kind of relationship where the Kovir for a long time served underneath the Zunak, but it will not be due to slavery. So there will be a quick change happening with that. The Xenomorphs will also remain a created species, as they are artificial. Now, it was the change here is broken chains, and I'm trying to find where that change was. It's a specific change here. I apologize for the wait. I am not seeing the change. It is also possible that that change did not get implemented. There was a few things that were going to be changed that got unchanged. And if that's the case, I just wasted everybody's time for a couple minutes. I apologize there. Looks like that is the case. When we move past the rest of species here, that's actually everything as far as I know. So if anybody has any questions about species, now is the time. And I will go back through this here. Ember says, I'm a fan of the species-specific perks or flavored species-specific perks. Android downloads, Titan quirks. Thank you. I believe that the wording choices that we chose are a lot more fun. Rush Laven says, I'm pretty sure it was phased out in the reset, but I've had players ask me after my call. Oh, wait. Yeah. Okay. So they are immune, or androids are immune, or not immune to murder or cannibal. They are susceptible to both of them. Skylar says, with the human 6 basic perks, does it have to be with one specialization, or they can be mixed? You can be, as long as you qualify for the perk, the human can select it. So you could go Deadeye 1, 2, 3, and you could go Guardian 1, 2, 3. You could go Drunken Master 1, just randomly in the middle of it. That it's all perfectly fine. That is an excellent picture of Kashim. Kashim going wild there. Species is a really pretty easy chapter, especially since the change I thought was in there isn't there. So the infinite guard stuff is not as easy as you think it is, and it requires you to build specifically a specific set of characters that if they're using that, it's going to be very boring for them, and they're going to, sure, they'll be running around having the ability to possibly, if everything goes correct and everyone doesn't just decide that, all right, this needs to end and we destroy them, right? I don't believe that the infinite guard stuff is actually a problem. You just kill the Kovir. But yes, it also is covered under Rule 2. Yeah, you should. I mean, what two characters would be doing that forever? I mean, yes, it's fun, but you have created two very boring Wasteland characters. All right. I didn't expect there to be much here. A lot of our bigger changes come in this chapter. And so what we're going to cover under general perks here is really just going to say there's no major changes to the armor perks. There's no major changes to the bounty hunter perks. There's no major changes to the chemist perks. And then we get to Deadeye. Deadeye has had some significant changes here. I'm going to get to the Deadeye chapter here. That's the bounty hunter. Chemist. Scrolling forever, sorry. Okay, so specifically each one of the mentions under the Deadeye: bullets, laser charges, plasma charges, they no longer have slashes, so there's no confusion here. It is bullets, laser charges, or plasma charges in your non-lootable bag. So you know that you can store a mix but not 3 of each, which was a confusion at one point. It is a mix. So if you have the ability to store 6, you can store 6 total, and they can be a mix of anything, not 6 of each. The Deadeye 3 used to say... Where did it go? Nope, it's just a formatting change. Sorry. I don't know why it says that was crossed out and the exact same thing was added there. Oh, there are slashes in 5. Well, I guess it's the beginning one to specifically, state how it works. Yeah. It was just to specifically have one of them state without the slashes. But where did should be right here. Yeah. So Deadeye 8 used to say, I got it down here. It says it was added. Oh yeah. Okay, so just the entire call was added to 8. You used to not have a special here on Deadeye 8 that allowed for a different call on the aimed shot, but now it is there in Deadeye 8, which is a buff to Deadeye as Deadeye was considered to be a little bit weaker than a lot of the other classes. And it felt pretty bad to play a Deadeye, but Pierce is definitely going to change that around and make Deadeyes a little bit scarier. It's not something that you just dip into to get scary, but going full bore into Deadeye is going to feel a lot better than it used to. But that is one of the ways that you can get it. So yes, it is an infinite count of Pierce. You can Pierce over and over and over again as a Deadeye. But there are called shot requirements on it. So people are going to know that you're doing it. When you start counting out your aimed shots, people are going to be aware. They're going to be like, oh no, the Deadeye has started his counts. And so people will start moving and doing things because Pierce is going to be a little bit scary. The engineer got an update here. Engineer received. Finding the specific changes here. Well, so they have they can add Pierce to their rockets, as Engineer also felt like it needed a bit of a combat buff. Engineer was fun if you like repairing boards, or if you like tearing down boards, but they didn't feel that good in a fight. So they have been given an additional ability that'll give them a little bit of an edge when they are using rockets in combat. So the fact that you can, as an engineer, kill a group of people much faster than you could before, as a 2 Pierce rockets is 2 health flags in an area. So it's possible that a group of armored people could die with all their armor intact. Ghost in the Machine did not receive any sort of an update here. Guardian did not receive an update. Medic didn't get an update. Rogue received a dash now, so Rogue no longer gets rush. Rogue now has dash, and their secondary use of getting the ability to do it again, which that's Savage, not, sorry, my bad. But they got rush here, or dash here. So no longer is there a question about whether or not stacking Rogue and Savage gives you one use or an extended use, or what does it do? It's you now have dash and you have rush. Savage has the change, or has no major change. It is the one that maintains the rush ability. Scavenger did not get an update. Social perks do not have an update here. Let me actually look at dip, or what was the one? Social light. No. So Spirit of the Rules is something to pay attention to when using social perks. There are that is definitely something that you want to pay attention to. There is also the idea that you can start using social perks to, if you find a weird thing that social perks allow you to do, like corner someone into never being able to do a thing in the rest of their life, that's not the Spirit of the Rules, and it's something you should pay attention to. And that is something that, can, like, the rules can be broken in that way by staff saying, so we're gonna break that rule and that's not a thing anymore, type of thing. For instance, if I walk up to a character and say, hey, are you going to attack me? And they say no. And then I ask them hand them a token and say, are you lying to me with Socialite? If they say they are not lying, then I could hold it to them that they said they're not going to attack me, and so they could never attack me for the history of ever. And that is not the way that the spirit of that law, of that rule, is supposed to be working. So the way to pay attention to the way Socialite and stuff like that works. Soldier did not receive any sort of an update. Survivor did not receive an update. Trader did not receive an update. I believe the crafting list was a little bit better organized. Was that this update? Lying to me. The soldier ability. Nope. It was not done this time. But and the miscellaneous perks did not receive an update. Oh, I remember what the thing in the species chapter was. Okay. Anyway, that is the end of the perks section. So we're going to answer the questions in the perks section. Then I'm going to go back to the species section to cover the one thing that I was trying to remember to recover. But let's see. But I know that you said this was answered, but then it was asked again. So the question was, is the engineer's Pierce ability a radius? Yes. Whatever the radius of the rocket is, you get the ability to add Pierce onto the rocket. So if you have a 10-foot radius rocket, you can yell, and I believe that the rocket has stagger, so you yell Pierce, stagger, boom, 10 feet. Right? Very big explosion, and everybody inside of it takes Pierce. Oh, yeah. That actually was something that was added in 2019. Rush Slavin mentioned that the engineer got more of a buff there too. Engineer also has more recipes for explosives, has more effects that they add on to their explosives. The engineer class received a buff to their explosives ability overall. Amber asks, does it say instead? Let's go look. Okay, engineer, boom. Oh, yeah, instead. Specific, yeah, you're right. So you can yell, Pierce, stagger 10 feet, right? It's instead of boom. Pierce, stagger 10 feet. Because otherwise it would do 2 damage. And that is not the intent. This is only to still do 1 damage on the rocket. Skylar says, could engineers Pierce rocket go through bunkers or barriers? If you read under barrier, you're immune to area of effect stuff on the other side. Pretty sure. Look at barrier here. It's if you're at the right specific. Do. Oh no, that is just range damage, not AoE. Yeah, it goes through barriers, but it does not go through walls. But yeah, the Pierce is an area effect. The rocket's area does not get smaller. But yeah, it goes through the engineer's barrier, as that does not provide you with defense from AoE. But popping back to species for a second, there is one big change that is not mechanical, but is definitely something that everybody needs to know. Who is playing a character with evolutions and quirks, the Rad Titans. Either the quirk inferior beings has been changed to acquired taste. Just the name is changed there. The naming convention inferior beings is something that has to do with supremacist language, and I'm just avoiding it. No reason to include it in the book. Acquired taste is something that has to do with flavor preferences, which I think is much more entertaining. That is the thing that I needed to cover there. And then we'll go back down to the next chapter here, where there are some more changes. So chapter 7, crafting. The changing stuff here in chapter 7, most of the changes here happen in the wording done with chems. So if we go to chems here, one of the things that was specifically set up here in the chems is the 5.3 update. Let me grab that here again. Yes. Okay. So wording change. The effect is exactly the same, but the taken section has been added to each one to say things like before or during an encounter or dying count specifically here, so that these can be easily set up for other abilities, and you know when things are supposed to be used. The wording "this lasts for one dying count" was taken out of the out of death's door, and just brought to it's taken during your dying count, and it only lasts for one encounter. So if you end up going up and down in a combat while you have taken a death's door, each of the deaths, or each of the dying counts, is increased. But once the end of the encounter is over, you no longer have the benefits from the ability. More changes here. Prophet had its taken added. Rage had its taken set up there. Believe the addiction rate on R4G3 was changed to low. It was not low before, or the addiction rate wasn't listed before. One of the two, but the change is here now. So that is how that is supposed to be. There's a balancing effect. Things are set up here. Specifically, this lasts until, like, you can pre-take your R4G3. And then when the next encounter, like, and this is another thing where Spirit of the Rules comes in, if somebody comes by and does something that is a considered an encounter, but you weren't involved at all, your chem's not wasted. The next time you are involved in an encounter, then your chem is all used up. Is really just a thing you should pay attention to and use common sense when knowing what's going on here, because the encounter is a very fluid and flexible system, and you need to use your best not best interest, but use your best thinking to figure out pardon me, use your best guess as to whether or not you were in that encounter. And you're not really trying to game the system here, but also don't mess yourself up real bad because somebody came by and made a count, right? It's really, pay attention to that kind of thing. Other changes here. I think I've got something. The cyberware tax was, the wording here was changed to be a lot better. Things end up being easier to understand. It's got an example here in addition to the rest of it. I believe there was a couple of wording changes changed in some of these other pieces of equipment. I am going to check to make sure. Wasn't anything huge here. There was a change to work gloves. All right, work gloves says you can set a scavenging timer to 2 minutes less than normal, and you can only use one of these at a time. So specifically, it was looked at before, the way that was worded, it was feasible that somebody could think that they could use 5 work gloves to lower their count by 10. But that is not the case. Just a set of work gloves helps you by 2 minutes. Explosives. And that is actually the end of that there. Special recipes. Okay, so under the over armor flag here, the word armor upgrade flag was removed from the book just because it got started to get confusing as what flag is that one. So now it's just always mentioned as over armor flag. So engineers add over armor flags to people. They carry over armor flags. Some other abilities are going to be able to obtain over armor flags, but they, depending on the source of where they came from, they'll have different sources. So in abilities interacting with each other. The rest of the book, I believe that the entirety of the glossary was gone over to make sure that a lot of the wording is better. A couple of other items in the glossary were added for further verification here, so everybody can understand things a bit better. They won't be as useful for people who've been around for a long time, but new players will definitely understand that a lot better. There is a notes section, so you can write things for yourself at the back of the book. There are the photography credits for each of the sections have been added to the end here, and the back of the book has been created. So that will be featured on the printed version of the book. And that is the entire book. So let's get any questions from anywhere in the book that anybody has, and I will attempt to address those. Let's see. Rushleven says, so I can't slap Thrax's ass and walk by to burn up the rage he's constantly on. I mean, you can walk up and strike him with a melee weapon and call a damage code, which will force him into an encounter and use up his chem. But you've also done that and now must deal with angry Thrak, who knows that he's about to come down off his drug. So that's a choice that you make. But yes, as everybody else is mentioning, that it would need to be a consensual Tukis massage. In the expansion, is there a chem that does over armor now? It's not. It is a repair kit, essentially. I'm not handling expansion questions right now, as the expansion is just about to get its editing soonish. So we'll have that going on. The post is just the Zompanda asking, is Nomad in the book now? Nomad is in the expansion, but it is not in this book. So this book is the new codified law of the Afterworlds game. Anything that's an expansion will be created to follow these rules. Rush says, gotcha, sorry. Josh says, taunt plus keyword perks, i.e. Radwalker, assuming the taunt ends when the Radwalker is used. Yeah. So, I mean, essentially, the taunt is going to go off, all the zombies point at you, and then you say Radwalker. You haven't physically harmed them. Actually, so Radwalker states that it doesn't, I believe it states that it doesn't work if they've used an ability on you. Let me make sure. Let me make sure I'm not just remembering that. Just do it this way. So these characters have forced them yeah. So essentially you're already attacking them at that point. Due to this doesn't read quite right here. You cannot use this ability if you have already been attacked by these characters or force them to attack you. I believe it's they forced you to attack them. No, it's forced them. Yeah, they're not stuck in a loop. The use of taunt and one of these abilities is yeah, that is exactly the yeah, you force them to attack you. Yeah, I was reading this as though I was a zombie. I should read this as though I was the Wasteland Ranger. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah. So if you taunt and then use Wasteland Ranger, it breaks your taunt. Or sorry, no, it doesn't break your taunt. The taunt still goes off and they're attacking you, and you are not immune to their attack. So, that answers that question there. Let's go back to more questions. Zompanda says, I got it. Cannot wait for the expansion. Give me power armor. Yeah, that's part of the big thing that we're working on right now. With chems, how is addiction figured out if you're hooked or not? So, let me grab something here. So here is the prototype of my new chem prop for the game. This is a bottle of Know-It-All. I currently have some less than see-through tape on it. So this is just, an attempt to get it to see if it fits. And it does. But this is all of the rules for the chem. I can't actually see if I'm showing it off very well without this program open. Okay. Let me get it to refocus. Okay. You can see there, technically, all of the rules to the chem are written on the side of the chem. So what you would do is you would have this bottle with you, and no matter what, there's going to be a small plastic, I think it's going to be laminated paper, small laminated paper slip inside of it. And it'll either be blank, which means that this is not an addictive chem, or it'll say addiction. And these are super easy open, rubberized plastic that opens up, and it'll be stored inside, and you'll essentially be able to figure out That is the addiction the what's the word that's used there? Let me make sure I use the exact phrasing. Kim's perks. That's gonna be a lot of those. The word cam. I guess probably search for the word addiction. Here we go. So there's a colored indicator inside. So when you open it up, it will have a color inside that says addicted, right? The indicator, if if there's something in there, no matter what, but the ones that say addictive or whatever it'll indicate when you open it up very easily. Let's see, what's the next one? Amber asks, wait a minute, is that perk called Wasteland Ranger or is it called Radwalker Wasteland Ranger? It is called Radwalker Wasteland Ranger. Josh says the latter. Yeah, it is. It is Radwalker Wasteland Ranger. It is a joke on Walker, Texas Ranger. But, you know, and adding in that you are a Radwalker walking through the radiated wastes. That kind of thing. So, if anybody doesn't have any more questions, I believe that is actually as far as we are going to go on this book walkthrough. Keep an eye on the Afterworlds page, because as soon as we get this stuff fixed, the couple of things that I mentioned, the thing in the Kovir, and I've taken your suggestions and written them down. These are going off to the printer. I have already secured the funding we would need in order to print the first 100 copies of the Afterworlds role-playing game guide. And like I said, they'll be available on the website for $24.99 if you want to pick them up at a game. And they'll be available to be shipped for $5 more, as I have found a way to ship them for $5, which is not the cheapest, but it's flat rate shipping. So even if the book is super heavy, they won't stop it, and I can get it as far as I need it to go instead of having to pay a bunch of different stuff. It is called Perfect Bound. Everything is going to be done in the books are 6 inches wide, 9 inches tall, 6x9 field manual size. So these books will be easy to store in your character's stuff instead of having to carry a whole ass thing around. But they are perfect bound, so they don't have like an easy breakable spine. It's I've got an example on it. You can grab that here real quick. This is not an exact replica of the size, but this is a definite. It's this kind of a binding. Let's get the darkness to, yeah. There we go. Guess maybe it's hard to see there. Stupid light. You go down in luminosity. Yeah, there we go. One of these kind of books with the, the big, like, it's going to have a gloss cover over it to keep it from getting a little bit damaged. It'll be, a thick, hard paper. Also, this is The Internet for Dummies, which is like one of the best books I've ever seen. It's very funny for being an internet technician myself. All right, let's, I got to get the chat back up. Yeah, so perfect binding for their thesis book. Yeah, but yeah, it's not going to be hardcover or anything like that. Um, with that said, that is everything I have for the walkthrough of the big changes of the book. I still advise everybody to read the book, but I really wanted to get a live stream together to show everybody that there's no huge sweeping mechanical changes, because historically, every time I've released rules, it's been a gigantic change that, shook the very foundations of the world. That is not the intent with this current rule set. I finally settled on a rule set that doesn't make me sick to my stomach. So we're going to keep this one for many years. Ember says, thanks for the stream. You are welcome. I appreciate it. Alexander Ruff says, date for next game. So there is a couple of things that I can actually update everybody on for that. Will this video be recorded on the channel? Yes. So I got my first vaccine dose today. If I wasn't overweight, I still wouldn't be on the schedule to be able to even get this vaccine for another month, as it's still not available for everyone to have gotten their vaccine. We're gonna need to wait. So for at least a month or two after it's been open for everybody to get their vaccine. So here's what you can do to make it more and more likely that we can do an Afterworlds this year. Help your community get vaccinated. If you know somebody who is reluctant, talk to them. If you know somebody who is having trouble figuring out how to use the system, where to go, what to do, offer some help. See if you can get them what they need to get. Save your vaccine cards. Save them. I want to see them when you come to site. Get everything you can. Get everyone you can vaccinated. And there's a possibility. There is a chance that I may not make it a full Afterworlds game. The first game that we're going to run is definitely not going to be focused. And we won't be able to handle plot, things like that. So just see what you can do, see who you can help, and see what we can get done. Rush says, PogChamp, our house is scheduling our first round Monday. Excellent. That's what I want to hear. Anybody who has been vaccinated, as soon as I get my second dose, you are welcome to come to my house and get your vaccine card laminated. I will do that for you. Rush says, I joked to Darren that it would be my AW permission slip. That's exactly what it is. Zompanda says, what about anti-vax people? I worry about those. Well, they're not getting on site without a vaccine card. So that's how that's going to work. You don't have to worry about anti-vax people, because they won't be there. One of the rewards to following science is that you will be allowed to come to Afterworlds. As one of the things about how this is going to work, the vaccine is something that I need everybody to get, because I also want to allow members of our community who can't get a vaccine to come. So those people who are the people that we're trying to protect, they will be allowed to come to the game too. And to keep them safe, those who are allowed to get a vaccine must. And that's just how my games are going to work. So yeah. And herd immunity, exactly why we're doing it. Skylar Nagel says, or I'm sorry if Nagel isn't right. I just seen, or maybe it's Nagel or Nagel. I apologize if I'm saying that one wrong, but get my next Monday through work. Can't wait. Awesome. It's exactly what I want to hear. Uh, other than that, thanks to everybody for coming out for the rules. For those of you who are watching this later, I will hopefully have an edit of this up pretty soon, though may not need it. This isn't that long and you can skip around. Maybe I'll just put little markers in saying this is everything about this chapter. If you're interested in ways that you can help Afterworlds and other ways besides getting a vaccine, subscribe to this channel. The closer we get to other stuff, the better. 2 blaster blings for sale. I've still got a lot of that. Series 2 is on its way. Let me give everybody who is here on the stream a little preview. Super proud of this one. So it came out so gosh dang cool. Let me get my camera up here. But in the next series, you will be able to get the relic as one of the available blings. Mini page of rules. Oh yeah, and you can listen to the podcast. So the podcast is definitely getting better and better as we go, and it's a lot of fun to listen to. I advise starting from the beginning and seeing how we get better. Mini scale flip book. I don't know if that would be a possibility, but possible. Josh, yeah, I've got ways to handle this. How everything's going to be done. First couple events probably won't even be not legal, won't be official events, and will be private parties by invite only. I happen to only be inviting people who have immunities. Adric says that the podcast is fucking raw. Yeah, that's very true. Okay, well, I am going to go. It's been a rough day, so I'm going to take it easy, go play some hard video games, get my mind off everything. But thanks for joining me, and I'll see everybody soon.